What did he also mean? We have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. What's that about?
He was angry that Israel was still attacking after he promised they weren't. He demanded they turn their planes around. He felt that they were doing it in defiance of their agreement.
But he didn't say Israel. He says the both countries.
Different quote. Different quote. He did say, I believe it was a tweet from Truth Social. I demand that Israel turn those planes around right now, was how upset he was about it.
I guess Donald Trump doesn't listen to Bibi all the time, does he?
Yeah, I guess he's finding out they respect him about as much as they respect a Palestinian.
Well, that's how
he's
world
just
leaders,
the help.
So world leaders are interested in their own nation.
That's
and
right.
They fuck you over.
Good, important lesson there, everyone.
But I think
what does Israel care about? Israel.
Every country that defends its national interests. I mean, that's not unusual for Israel or any other country. But I think to understand,
we're supposed to pretend that, hey, whatever Israel needs, we're here to serve their interests.
If those people exist, they're un-American. If people put Israel's interests,
we fight terrorism together.
Well, we do.
Well, we generate terrorism together. What are you talking about?
But that doesn't mean you put Israel's interest above America's. Yeah. If you do, you're un-American.
You know how many American lives
the
Israeli intelligence community has saved? And ask people in the FBI and CIA who work counterterrorism how many American lives the Israelis have saved because of their intelligence capabilities.
How about when Naftali Bennett bombed that shelter full of women and children and caused the September 11th attack? That's what happened. In fact, I don't know if you know the story, but you could Google this. You like Googling things. It's on Google Books. You can read Perfect Soldiers by Terry McDermott, or you could read The Looming Tower by Lawrence Wright, where both of them explain how when Shimon Peres launched Operation Grapes of Wrath, that Ramzi bin al-Shibh and Mohammed Atta filled out their last will and testament, which was like symbolically joining the army to fight against the infidels, et cetera, et cetera. And when bin Laden put out his first declaration of war a couple of months later, it began with a whole rant about the 106 women and children that Naftali Bennett had killed with an artillery strike in a UN shelter in Qana in 1996. And he said, we'll never forget the severed arms and heads and legs of the little babies, et cetera. And it was then that Mohammed Atta and Ramzi bin al-Shibh decided that they would join al-Qaeda and that these Egyptian engineering students studying in Hamburg, Germany, would volunteer for this Saudi sheikh to kill 3,000 Americans to get revenge for what Israel was doing to helpless women and children in Lebanon, as well as, of course
that ignores the history of al-Qaeda, which for years before that was
worked not for only the United States
not only
and Britain
planning
and Saudi
operations
Arabia
against the United States, but executing them.
You guys love pulling each other into history.
No. They went after
America's problem with al-Qaeda.
Just one second.
Is
America's problem with al-Qaeda
Israel.
is Israel. America and Israel are terrorist states.
They were America's mercenaries that we used in Afghanistan, in Bosnia, in Kosovo, and Chechnya.
It's all us.
But they turned against
us.
I
mean America.
They turned against
it's all us, Scott.
Anyone can read Michael Scheuer's book, the former chief of the CIA's bin Laden unit, wrote his great book. It's called Imperial Hubris, and it's about how the number one reason they attacked us was American bases on Saudi soil to bomb Iraq as part of Israel's dual containment policy. And the second reason was American support for Israel in their merciless persecution of the Palestinians and the Lebanese.
Well, that's the most articulate justification I've ever heard for al-Qaeda in my life. But let's
It's not a justification. I'm not saying that makes what they did right. I'm saying that was how bin Laden recruited his foot soldiers to attack this country, was by citing American foreign policies that were directly to the detriment of the people of the Middle East, and specifically our support for Israel. And I've never heard in fact, I take that back. There's one guy, a liberal from The Nation magazine named Eric Alterman, is the only pro-Israel guy I've ever heard say, well, that may be true, but I still say we got to support Israel anyway. The others, they'll just pretend that Terry McDermott never wrote that book, that Lawrence Wright never wrote that book, that Mohammed Atta had no motive to turn on the United States except for Mohammed made him do it, when in fact what it was the ultra-violence of Shimon Peres and artillery officer Naftali Bennett slaughtering women and children that turned America's mercenaries. America backed the Arab-Afghan army in Afghanistan, in Bosnia, in Kosovo, and in Chechnya, as I demonstrate in my book. And yet, as he correctly says, they turned on us all through the 1990s. Bill Clinton was still backing them anyway, after they were attacking us and including at Khobar Towers. And they were doing that this was a bin Ladenite plot, not Hezbollah, not the Shiites. This was the bin Ladenites getting revenge against us for support for Israel and being too close to their local dictators that they wanted to overthrow, namely the King of Saudi and the El Presidente of Egypt.
Yes,
that is the cause of the September 11th attack against the United States. Not the Taliban hate freedom, but the bin Ladenites hate American support for Israel and America adopting policies, Israeli-centric policies like Martin Indyck's dual containment policy in 1993.
I think Al-Qaeda hates America, Scott.
Why? You know what?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Ali Soufan, you know Ali Soufan, the former FBI agent, counterterrorism agent, he wrote in his book, The Black Banners, that the bin Ladenites said to bin Laden, we don't understand why you're so angry at America. They've been so good to us in Afghanistan, in Bosnia, in Kosovo, and now here in Chechnya. Why do you want to attack them?
And bin Laden attacked America.
Said, I have a larger agenda that you don't understand.
Well, the disagreement between you is clear. I've talked to Noam Chomsky twice. Scott, you focus on the criticism.
You should interview Michael Scheuer. Well, although he's gone pretty crazy lately. I don't know. Maybe not.